Hello and welcome to this week's special edition of Money Matters, where we're answering your question. The questions that we're addressing this week are quite technical, but I think that's fine because money sometimes is technical. This question is from Samuel Holden. So, hi Samuel, hope you're doing well. Samuel says, hi Paul, great content, really beneficial. Thank you. I have a question related to LLPs and limited company combination. In my mind, after doing quite a bit of research, I've settled on an operating limited company. Samuel explains that he's operating buy-to-lets, being wholly owned by a holding company, which is also limited. Any new companies I set up would also be wholly owned by the same holding company in which I'd award shares to various family members. Very smart. If I'm not looking to tackle service accommodation and my commercial endeavours are taken up solely using my SaaS, told you it's quite technical, then would there be any benefit to me of establishing an LLP? I really like the news about capital allowances, but I note they don't apply to residential projects. Well, here's what I'd be thinking, Samuel. I'd be thinking, if I buy commercial property and put it straight into my SaaS, and this is something I actually do, by the way, I don't buy it into my SaaS immediately, because if I do that, I can't claim the capital allowances on it. Because, well, I can, but I can't. Let me just explain. I can technically claim the capital allowances, but I can never use them because pensions don't pay tax. So how can a pension ever use a capital allowance to allow it not to pay tax if it doesn't pay tax anyway? So what I do is I buy it into an LLP outside of the pension, outside of the SaaS. I've got a SaaS too. Used to have a SIP, now got a SaaS. So I'll buy it outside of the SaaS, claim the capital allowances, and then sell it into the SaaS. Specific answer to your question, Samuel, I think there could be, but it would depend on, are there capital allowances that you want to claim before you put those properties into your pension, is the first point. And the second point, more generally, for everybody, I always say there are three main reasons why you might consider an LLP versus a limited company. The first reason, and I'm going to do these in increasing order of importance, so the least important is cars. So if you want to be able to run a fully expensed car without being at a taxable benefit, you need some income. You need a legitimate LLP. So if you've got an LLP that owns some property, you can use that to run a car through it. And you're not going to pay car tax, it's not a benefit in kind, you can charge the insurance, you can lease a car, and I'm not going to go through all that again because I've made that point many times. But for anyone that hasn't seen any of those other videos that I've made, LLPs are very, very efficient ways to run cars. The second point, which I've covered already in this video, is capital allowances. If you've got capital allowances you want to claim, LLPs are much more efficient ways of doing it. And the third point is legacy. It's much easier to pass your portfolio or any form of wealth you've got really, but if it's houses or property, which mainly is what we talk about here, but any form of wealth, it's much easier to pass on your assets through an LLP to future generations. It's much easier to manage inheritance tax than it is through a limited company. And there are some other benefits as well, like sideways relief and so on. So I think there are reasons, Samuel, why you should consider it. But ultimately you need to do what's right for you and make sure you get the right specific advice, because what I'm trying to do here is give you enough information so that you can go to your advisors and ask good quality questions. All right, so question number 2 is, I've got an unencumbered service apartment in my personal name, good for you, which I operate through a limited company. Perfect. I would like to remortgage it and use the money to buy another service accommodation. Should I set up an LLP and get the mortgage through the LLP? Great question. So here's what to think about, Eren. I won't repeat everything I just said, but you heard what I said about cars, capital allowances, and inheritance tax, so same again. Specifically, to run an LLP is probably going to cost you somewhere between £600 and £800 a year. Will you drive cost savings of at least £600 to £800 a year? If it's just one extra property, possibly not. So that would take, if I'm reading this correctly, and you may have others that you're not telling me about, but if that takes your portfolio from 1 to 2, that's great, well done by the way, that's twice the national average. The average landlord's got 1, so you're doing brilliant at twice the national average. The cost of running the LLP You know, it's not thousands, it's hundreds of pounds a year, and there's quite a lot of benefits that I've discussed already. But just make sure that you're clear that the benefits of running it through an LLP will outweigh the costs. Now, if you're going to tell me that you're going to be adding 2, 3, 4, 5 service departments to your portfolio, I'd be saying, yeah, go and get an LLP. But if it's just one, there's some benefits, but there's some disadvantages. Because there's really no problem having 1 or 2 properties in your personal name. The problems occur when you've got lots, and that really comes down to, you know, inheritance tax and all those things. So I hope that general advice is useful, but this is the sort of thing where you need a really good accountant. You need to know the stuff that I've just talked about, because otherwise you can't even have the conversation with the accountant. So, hope you've enjoyed this week's technical edition of Money Matters. I just want to remind you that once a month we do this. So if you've got any questions that are not getting answered by Money Matters, you know, because we've just not covered it, you've got some question that we haven't even addressed, or maybe we have, like Eren and Samuel, but you want more on it, then ask some questions, just put them below one of the videos, and what the team will do is they'll pull out the most interesting ones, and hopefully your name will get pulled out of the hat, and we'll feature you in a future edition of Money Matters, because after all, money really does matter. If you've enjoyed the video, please hit the subscribe button and get yourself subscribed. Sign up 1 or 2 of your mates, some of your family perhaps, because the more we can spread the message, the happier I'll be. And if you could help me, that would make me absolutely delighted. As always, you've been wonderful. I've been Paul, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.